Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 139, I was very happy and it was an honor to have Kuda Biza on the podcast. He is one of these people which I would say kind of makes you feel like you're a bit lazy, highly motivated, and a highly motivational force. He is basically the co-founder of Nunbelievable. He is also a speaker and author. We talked about many things today. We talked about his early times growing up in Zimbabwe. We talked about his time at Lynn University in Florida. We also talked about his basically his business and his book. I've got to say, much of the conversation was highly educational, I would say. I learned a lot, and I would say the world can learn a lot from this gentleman. So please sit back, enjoy the podcast, and have an exceptional day. Peace. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 100, and I'm going to have to double check that. I believe it is 139. Woo! I have Kuda Biza on the podcast. He is the CEO and founder of Nunbelievable. He is also a speaker, author, and it pains me to say it, he is a scumbag Chelsea supporting man. But you know what? You got to do good in the world today, and yes, he has done enough to resolve himself from that Chelsea supporting thing. I can't even say the words, but how are you today?
I'm doing good. Well, let us just start by addressing the elephant in the room. What team do you support?
Look, don't worry about it. You know what? We're just taking it easy this season. We're just.
Are you an Arsenal fan?
Oh God, no. It's oh God, no. No, Liverpool. And you know what? I say congratulations to you going through to the next round of the Champions League. So, yeah.
Liverpool is quite solid, actually. You broke the 30-year-old curse, and you also won the Champions League, so it's not bad. But let's see if next season will bring better, hopes. My dad is a Liverpool fan, so I can't really knock Liverpool fans that much. If you're an Arsenal fan, then it would have been another case. But my dad is a Liverpool fan, so he saved you on this one.
Hey, no, save me. Look, you know what? Your father's a good man. That's what I'm gonna say. He's a good man.
Yeah, he grew up, really in kind of like the John Barnes's era, Ian Rush, and all those guys. So in the 70s and 80s, Liverpool was the team. And I'm really proud that, my dad is obviously living in Zimbabwe, but in 2019, I was able to bring him up I brought him to London for vacation, spent a month with him. And one of the things we did is we went to Anfield and, did the whole stadium tour, and he got to experience what it was like to really be in the stadium. So for him, having been a fan since the 70s, and now it's 2020, so for 50 years, right, he never thought that he was going to be able to set foot at Anfield and going to the dressing rooms and do all of these things and meet a legend. And being able to do that for him was really amazing. So I got to experience what it is like to be a Liverpool fan, living vicariously through him. So yeah, I think it's good. But anyway, I'm more of the modern era guy, more of the Didier Drogba type of guy. Chelsea is the team.
You know what? Yeah, I see how you go. You're buttering me up with that lovely story about how you and your dad, came over for vacation to London, and then we went up to Liverpool, went to Anfield, got to spend the whole thing as a fan, seeing that, went to the Cop. I turned, even just as the sun came over my dad's face, there was a single tear coming down the eye. I was like, okay, yeah, great. And then you just hit me with that. I see what you're doing. It's
but here's the funny thing, though. me showing up there with my dad was the season you guys won the premiership. So you guys should actually thank me, because I came with that Premier League winning spirit, right? And graced your stadium with it. And it broke the curse.
No.
And you should look this up, actually. You know Bruce Grobbelaar?
Yes.
Zimbabwean goalkeeper. He was being interviewed, and he said that there was a curse that was actually put at Anfield, and he actually was involved. So look it up and just watch it, and you'll see. So it had to take another Zimbabwean to come and break the curse. But anyway, we can jump into the podcast now. Enough about football.
I'm gonna thank your dad. Now, after that little bit of banter, look, yeah, you mentioned Zimbabwe, right? And look, would you say you are you're pushed by the impossible, or you're driven by the impossible? What one would you say it is? Because you started your first business at the age of 9 in Zimbabwe, doing what exactly?
Yeah, so my first business at 9, it wasn't really like me sitting down, just like, oh, I want to start a business, blah, blah, blah. It was just really out of necessity. I had to start a business. What had happened was, it was a hot summer day, and I went to my mom asking for ice cream money because I could hear the ice cream truck coming down the street. But I'd been a little bit naughty that morning, and my mom was like, you know what? You're not getting any ice cream money from me. So she was punishing me, basically. And literally, the ice cream truck came and went. I saw all my friends in the neighborhood go and get their ice creams. And here I was standing there, not having an ice cream. Similar to the 30 years Liverpool was watching all the other teams win the Premiership.
Okay. Yeah,
no, I'm just joking.
Continue with your story. Yeah, you're a mean man.
But anyway, so I was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. Like, why is it that one person can control my ice cream destiny? She basically decided that you're not having an ice cream, and for sure, I did not have an ice cream. So I literally wanted to just put matters into my own hands. And I noticed that my neighbor's windows were dirty. And in just that moment, I was like, whoa, let me just go over and see if I can wash her windows and get paid for it. So I took my mom's cleaning supplies and a bucket, ran over to my neighbor's house, and basically just said to the lady, hey, I'll clean your house, your windows for $5. And I don't know if I was a good salesman, or if she felt pity for me, or if she was just trying to do my mom a favor to keep me busy. And she was like, yeah, go ahead, do it. And I cleaned the windows. And then, 3 hours later, I earned my very first $5. And then the next day, when the ice cream truck came by, I didn't have to ask my mom anymore. I was a big boy now. So I went and I bought my ice cream. And the feeling that I had that moment when I bought that first ice cream was a feeling I never wanted to lose, because I realized the power of entrepreneurship, meaning that if you see a problem and you go out and you solve that problem, you are rewarded. And that's really what entrepreneurship is all about. You're a problem solver, and you then get rewarded by the universe for solving people's problems. And, if you solve, really big problems, you get rewarded really big, and then you can get to buy all the Ferraris and the jets and things like that. Or you can give it all away, like what other, billionaires are doing now. But the cool thing is, it liberates you to be able to, live your own destiny. So that was a lesson I learned at a very young age. And since that point in my life, when other kids were like, I want to be, a doctor, I want to be a lawyer and whatnot, I was like, I want to be a businessman, because I had kind of realized the whole mindset of, being an employer versus being an employee. And there's nothing wrong working for other people, but from my perspective, having experienced that at a very young age. It was a seed that was sown so deep that I was just like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and I don't know how, I don't know what business I'm going to be in, but that's what I'm going to be. And that's how the journey started of me being an entrepreneur.
Mm. Like the power of ice cream is the motivation for many a person. If it wasn't ice cream, it would have been something else. But $5, 30 windows, and like, yeah, with regards to the sort of empowerment, or basically, as you said, liberation of entrepreneurship, was it a case of this is like, was there not the sort of opportunities you found, like say in the United States compared to Zimbabwe? That the reason why you left with $40 in your pocket, or was it just a case of like, yeah, you just wanted to do something different?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I was influenced a lot by American culture, right? America has done a really good job in spreading its culture through media all over the world, right? People are watching American shows, listening to American music, and really just kind of like setting that standard through Hollywood and other vehicles that, hey, this is the place to be, right? If you want to reach the American dream, you should come here. So I always had this dream of coming to America. And the only way I saw as a viable option to come to America was through school, right? Because I was like, hey, now that I'm finishing high school, it would be great for me to go to uni in the US, because then if I go there for uni, if I get into the American education system, I can then find my way to build a career there. But the challenge was I came from a poor family, lower middle class family. We're a single income household. My mom hadn't been going to work for maybe over 15 years because of health issues. And my dad was the only breadwinner with 5 kids. And, when I told my parents that was the dream that I wanted to lead, they were like, we'll support you, but you're going to have to figure out how to pay for this, right? And I quickly realized that I had to get a scholarship. So when I graduated high school, a lot of my friends were in similar situations where they also wanted to leave to come to the UK. There are a lot of Zimbabweans in the UK, to come to Australia and the US, but they would always get stuck on the resource piece, because then they'll be like, oh my God, it costs 40,000 pounds for an international student, and X amount of dollars for a ticket. We only make $100 a month as a family. There's no way I'll be able to do this. And then they would give up. And then I would look at it and I'll be like, well, okay, it does cost 40,000 US dollars to go to this college. We can't even afford to pay like even 1% of it or whatever, but there has to be a way. Because I had realized by starting my business that you shouldn't really focus on the resources or the lack of resources. What you should focus on is being resourceful, right? Because the world is full of resources. You just need to figure out how to make them work in your favor. So I'll give you an example. So when I graduated, a lot of my friends were like, oh, I can't even apply to colleges because I don't have any internet at home. The resource was internet, and they were saying that they didn't have it. So because they didn't have it, they weren't gonna chase their dream. And I thought about it differently. I was like, you know what? What if I was to come up with a no-lose scenario? People always talk about win-win, but if you were to present what I call a no-lose scenario, usually people will say yes, because they have nothing to lose, right? If anything, they have the potential to gain upside. So I went to a guy who owned an internet cafe. Remember, the resource I needed was internet, and I didn't have it at home. And so I had to find a way to get that resource. And I went to the guy and I was like, hey, listen, your internet cafe is open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's your opening times. If I come to you and I ask you, can you give me a job? You can tell me one of two things. Well, number one is that, yes, it's open, we have a slot, come and work. Or number two, we're full, I'm not looking for someone right now, and I can't give you a job. So I'm not coming to you asking for a job. What I'm coming to you trying to present to you is an opportunity. And here's the opportunity. I will work from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. So right now, those hours are dead hours. You're not making any money, but I will be the guy who will unlock that opportunity for you. Now, the revenue you make during those 5 hours will pay for my salary. So you don't have to take anything out of pocket. And there's a huge amount of people who finish work at 6 p.m. and they need to use the internet, but you're closing down. So now there's a huge potential for you to actually become profitable. So he had nothing to lose. So the only reason for him to tell me no is if he truly hated me. But if you're a true business person, why wouldn't you not try this out? So he said, yeah, let's do it. And for me, the selfish reason why I was doing this was because from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., I would then sleep inside the internet cafe. I wouldn't go home. And then I would use internet for 7 hours, right? So that resource that my friends were saying, I don't have any internet, so I'm not going to apply. I basically got it for free. In fact, I was being paid to use the internet because I had found myself a job. Although I was sleeping on a chair every night, I was able to do my research for the colleges. I was able to apply. I was able to look for scholarships. And, that kind of like really was what unlocked everything. It was really just the mindset shift of saying, yes, I don't have the resource. I acknowledge it, but how can I get it? And then just shifting your mind from ask or telling yourself, I cannot afford it, to basically just saying, how can I afford it, right? It's a different mindset. And I think if you're able to just have that, half full versus half empty mindset, you can acquire so many benefits in life. And that was something that I learned and truly is what unlocked, everything for me, really.
I would say with regards to most people, like they're sort of like the majority of people would be in that sort of like, okay, I want to really do this, but if you really sat them down and you like ask them hand on your heart, hand to God, like, are you trying to find that excuse, whatever little excuse to say, oh, I tried, but you know what, this was against me in life and everything like this. I know I sit here in the UK, basically internet's pretty much everywhere you go, but you go, right, if that was like one step, that first step was the thing which was going to trip you up, that there is a lot more steps before you get on that plane and get that acceptance letter, getting on that plane to get to the US or wherever you might be. So what would you say to people if it's like, yeah, if that's step one, how, like, do you set a number of steps to like achieve your goals or dreams, or is it just a case of like you just work on one step, then work on the other?
Well, the way I would do it is that I think you first need to have clarity on the end goal, the big picture.
Yeah.
And then once you understand what the big picture is, really understand the reasons, the why. Because reasons come first and then answers come next. So for me, what I clearly understood was the reason why I wanted to come to America. Because for some people, they were like, oh yeah, I want to come to America, but they never really dug into why. They never really answered that question why. So because they never really answered that question why, they didn't have enough reasons. They didn't have enough, pushing them to want to do it. But for me, it was clear as day, like, I need to go to America because I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to change the world, I want to give back, I want to, change lives and all that stuff. And what happens is that our brain, right, think about it as like, let's say a software, an operating system. It's a 2 million year old operating system, right? Because it's been here since the ancient days or whatever, right? And it hasn't really been upgraded, right? Unless if you do it, like you get it with default settings and you need to work on it yourself, right? You need to have self-mastery and then, self-awareness and then kind of like upgrade the system. But the default setting is your brain doesn't want you to get outside of your comfort zone. Because if you step outside of your comfort zone, there's stress, right? You're facing risk. And basically what your brain wants to do is just kind of like lounge around and just kind of like be comfortable with everything that's going on. When you now try to do something that gets you outside of your comfort zone, your brain naturally wants you not to do it. So that's why, like, let's say, for instance, and you're a runner, right? If you've never run a marathon before, right? And then you start training for it, and although you might have the ability to run, let's say 10 miles, just because you've never done it before, after a mile, your brain will be like, dude, what are you thinking, man? You know, like, just turn around, go home, and, you know, you've done enough or whatever. But you could actually go beyond that. Your brain usually starts to tell you to stop when you've only hit 40% of what you're truly capable for. You know, so there's some people who go and do Navy SEAL training, right? Like, you know, if you look at what they're doing in training, and these are people who, before they stepped into that training camp, were average people, but they now have the ability to do all these things. It was because they were able to go and control their mind, and then be able to go over their comfort zone. So that's one of the things, is that if you don't really build the habits and the routines to be able to step outside of your comfort zone regularly, you'll always be stuck in your comfort zone. And the danger with being in your comfort zone is that there's no growth there. Nobody grows in their comfort zone. So if you really want to grow, if you really want to achieve things in life, you have to push yourself every day, right? You have to go outside, you have to do that run, you have to do other workouts. And then once you hit another level, you go to the next level, because that's how you grow. And it's a constant, persistent pursuit of your potential. And you have to then continuously step outside of your comfort zone. So that was really the case with me. It was like, hey, what's comfortable is to stay in Zimbabwe, stay with my parents, go to uni in Zimbabwe. But I was like, no, I'm going to chase this. And it took me 2 years, by the way, from when I started this journey to when I finally got that scholarship. My colleagues from high school were 2 years into uni in Zimbabwe when I finally got on a plane to come. But our future, like our big pictures, are vastly different. Because when I went back to Zimbabwe and saw what they were up to and what they were doing, and what I was up to and what I was doing, because they didn't step outside of their comfort zone, they weren't able to then do remarkably different things. But then from my perspective, because I pushed myself, my reality is now a little bit different than before.
Would you say, like, because you were pushing yourself beyond your 40%, beyond your governor, I would say, to that sort of next level, when you did come back, your sort of perspective was on, I'd say, a slightly different level to their perspective. So when you actually talked about stuff with like some of your classmates, they couldn't kind of grasp the sort of like your sort of perspective in some regards?
You know, I wouldn't come to that conclusion, really. I think one of the things that God gave us as human beings is the power of will to decide. So for them, it was a decision they made, and it's their life. Who am I to say, hey, this decision is not the right decision? And if they're fulfilled and if they're truly happy with that decision, then that's good, you know? But for me personally, I only compare myself to my potential. I don't compare myself to you or anyone else, because we're running different journeys. We're facing different challenges. We come from different backgrounds. So it wouldn't be fair for me to then, you know, compare my friends to say like, hey, you know, I've done X, Y, and Z better than you. No, I'm not better than you. I just have a different journey.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I just have a different journey than you. And I only measure my myself against my potential, because that's really who you compete against, right? It's if you have the potential to do something and then you don't do it, you've kind of like, missed out on an opportunity. But if you truly don't have the potential to do it, right, then it'll be hard for you to then compare yourself to someone who has the potential to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Like, one of the things I often think, because when you mention Navy SEALs and when you mentioned the 40%, one of the Navy SEAL, what came to mind, because there are was David Goggins, and basically he is the guy who's going, okay, yeah, everyone goes at just 40% and not really sort of pushing past their sort of potential. And yeah, pushing to that next level and pushing yourself into that sort of realms of discomfort, it's a thing which not a lot of people like doing, because discomfort, pain, and sometimes it could bring forth sometimes a little bit of misery, because you've got to sort of get out there and go to a place where you never thought you would go to. Or if you thought it would, if you do go to that place, it might be considerably different to what you expect. So after your sort of 2 years of grinding, working in this internet shop, sleeping there overnight, working till 11, sleeping there overnight, and you got your acceptance to, was it Lynn? Yeah, Lynn University in in Florida, just like Fort Lauderdale, Miami. That is considerably different to Zimbabwe. What was some of the things what kind of surprised you about being over there?
A lot. I don't even know where to start. So my first weekend.
Okay.
First Saturday, fresh off the boat, you remember I had $40 in my pocket. One of my roommates, not roommates, neighbors in the dormitory, came from a well-to-do family. They came from a really wealthy family. So he came in and was like, guys, let's go to Miami. And I'm like, dude, I can't afford it. He was like, no, I got you covered. Let's go. I was like, all right, let's go. So we all go to Miami, right? And we go to this place, and we're having fun and whatnot. And then I just go to the restroom to pee, right? And as I'm in the restroom, bodyguards come in, and they're like, hey, you need to finish, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, hey, dude, I'm just getting started. It's going to be here for a while. And they're like, all right, whatever. And then they just let the guy that they were kind of guarding come in. And I look up and it's Hulk Hogan. So, my first Saturday in Miami, I'm seeing this guy I used to watch on TV, right? Because I used to watch wrestling growing up, and it's WWF, whatever, Monday Night Nitro, and he's in the next stall peeing, he's these big biceps. I'm just like, what? So that was kind of my first weekend in Miami, and it wasn't like a bender like Freshers Week people have in the UK, but it was an experience, right? Because I had gone from being in Zimbabwe, watching these guys on TV, to now standing next to him, and we're in the bathroom together. So it's just like, what is happening here? So there was kind of that element, right? And in Miami, there's a lot of celebrity factor, right? You're walking down the streets, you see a musician there, you see Will Smith, you see all of that. So it was kind of that it's like, oh wow, the people that to me were untouchable, I'm shaking hands with them, getting selfies and all these different things. It's it just shifted the what to me was possible, right? But also there were some cultural things, like Zimbabwe, for example. We're landlocked, we don't have a beach, and now everybody is half naked, or even leaving very little to the imagination, just walking around anything is, everything is good. So there was also that. But I think for me, it was really the ability to then connect with people from so many different parts of the world, because America is really a melting pot, right?
Yes.
Any country you meet. So like, when I was in Zimbabwe, I don't think I'd even met a Brazilian, a Saudi Arabian, and, Turkish, all these different cultures. So for me, that was like the biggest, I wouldn't say culture shock, but the biggest benefit, because I was able to connect and meet people from so many different parts of the world. And for me, it was enriching. Not only was I also sharing my culture and what I bring to the table that's unique, but I was also gaining so much. And it just enabled me to quickly have a different perspective and appreciation of the world and other cultures and people as well. So for me, I think that was one of the biggest things, because now I had friends all over the world. I recently traveled to a few countries, and what was interesting was that I would get into a country and I knew someone in that country who would either host me or show me around or whatever. So like I can go to like Guatemala, and I know 5 people in Guatemala. I can go to Turkey, I know 7 people in Turkey. I can go to Saudi Arabia, I know 4 people there. Like, it's just kind of like crazy how almost every single country now, I have some sort of relationship and connection. And I don't think that would have been possible if I had just stayed in Zimbabwe.
So, no, I like that. That's good. Like, because like this is the thing. I think that's one of the things I think is taken for granted. Like, because I live in London and I've lived in Cambridge, but if like other parts of the UK, it doesn't really sort of have as much sort of an international flavor to it. So it's like one of those things which I always take for granted that yes, I'll meet someone from another country. One of the things what made me laugh is like back in 2013, it was my friend's stag do, and we were in Munich there for Oktoberfest. I'll tell you this, Oktoberfest, it was more like Blurry Fest. That's another story. But yeah, we got talking to this German girl, and she goes, yeah, so where you guys from? I went, yeah, from London. She goes, what, you're actual real Londoners? Yes, yeah, all 3 of us. She goes, I've been in London for like 6 months, and she has never met anyone who's a true Londoner in that 6 months. The whole world she was operating in, it was like truly international. So it's like, yeah, kind of blows your mind in some respects. But with that, with you sort of first coming over and like basically, yeah, getting in like close proximity of the legend that is Hulk, the brother man Hogan. So what would you say were like other things you sort of picked up at your time at like Lynn University? Because hey, you were doing the graduation speech at one point.
Yeah, they gave me that honor to do that. I think one of the key things that I will always remember Lynn for is, number one, they gave me a wife. I was able to meet my wife there on campus, and we started dating, and next thing is we're moving in together, we're engaged, and now we're married. And she's from a different country. She's very cultured. She's lived in Switzerland and so many other countries, and really an amazing person. And I'm thankful for that, because not only was like, I didn't know at the time when I was like, let's say applying to go into school and whatnot, that, hey, I'm actually going to then find my future partner and significant other over there. So I'll always be thankful for that. What I was also able to do was I was also able to even grow as an entrepreneur. So while I was at Lynn, I started my second business, which was a socially conscious clothing line called AFR Clothing, where we would donate a portion of our profits to children in need. And, I didn't have any money to start the business, but remember the whole spiel I told you about being resourceful is when I had the idea and the concept and I was ready to launch it, I went to a manufacturer and I was like, hey, listen, I don't have the money, but here's my plan. Here's my big picture. If you could produce these goods for me on net 30 terms, meaning I'll pay you in 30 days. I'll do whatever I need to do. I'll bust my ass and make sure that I pay you in time. And again, I don't know if I was a good salesperson or he just literally just felt love for the connection of the mission of why I wanted to do this. Because I was telling him like, hey, when I was in Africa, I saw a lot of kids my age who didn't go to school because public education, unfortunately, in a lot of developing countries is not free. So if your parents can't afford to pay, you're not going to primary school, you're not going to high school. And as I was growing up, I would see this. And here I was in America getting an American education when there were millions of children in Africa who can't even go to primary school. So he was like, yeah, I'll take a risk on you. And we did the order, started the business, and we've educated hundreds of children across Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Tanzania, in Ghana, in South Africa. And, you know, Lynn was really kind of like essential in that piece because that's where I found my first customers. You know, I was able to sell through you know, that network. And what even made it more like touching was that the very first check we donated, a group of Lynn University students took that check to the orphanage in South Africa because they were doing a study abroad. So they were able to actually go and meet the students that we were impacting before I did. I never got a chance to actually meet that group of students, but people within the Lynn community were able to do that. And it's been an amazing institution, obviously, for giving me the scholarship, right? Because if the school didn't give me the scholarship, I wouldn't have been able to do so many things. And I have a really good relationship with Lynn even up until now. And you mentioned about the graduation speech. So that was nice as well. So, you know, I will always be thankful, and there'll always be a key story in my life's journey.
Yeah. Were you nervous when you gave that graduating speech, or were you excited at the time? Because, yeah, standing there in front of your class, like, was it 2010? Given that?
Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't. Probably the moments before, like when I was walking to the stage, I was like, I hope I don't fumble. I hope I don't, whatever. But I was prepared. I was ready. And if you watch the speech, you'll see that although I had the actual speech, I knew it from here that I wasn't reading. So the moment I just got on stage and I looked at the crowd, it was like game on. It's like when you know, a professional athlete goes on stage, right? So like Mo Salah, like when he gets on the field, it's showtime, right? You know, when he gets on that penalty spot to shoot that penalty, yes, there are days and moments when he might not really be feeling it, but you know, 9 out of 10 chances, it's like it's game on. You're in the zone, and like you just kind of like switch on. And I've been able to give speeches. I have a TEDx. I've spoken at the United Nations. I've spoken, you know, in 4 different countries. And it's one of those things where like the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with it. And the more the nerves, you know, go away. You know how to deal with them. The nerves will always be there. Like I can't say that, you know, you don't become nervous, but you can do certain things to make sure that the nerves don't affect you. And that's something that I've been able to do. And, you know, I've also been able to watch some of the best people, like, you know, with Nunbelievable, you were talking about it, Tony Robbins is involved with the business. And, you know, I do have some exposure to some of the things that he does. And I've been able to go to some of his events and kind of like see like, you know, how he does it. And, you know, I'm pretty sure he's a human being and he does get the nerves, but there are certain things that he does right before he goes on stage that then just switches on this, you know, this different person, and everything goes away. So that's something else that I've also learned, is that you need to have like some sort of routine where you just switch and it's game on. But nerves will always be part of nature, but you can learn how to deal with them.
No. Like, this is the thing. I did watch your graduation speech, and like I say, very well done. And the reason
Thank
why,
you.
no worries, no worries. The reason why I ask if like people are nervous or excited is because I try to figure out what the sort of driving force is behind that. Because like when like most people go, wait, like they always emphasize on the nervous, and like there's times where like if you speak to a lot of professional athletes who are about to say do their 100 meters, like Usain Bolt or something like that, or like Gatling, and they'll be like, no, I'm just excited, just ready for the moment, as you mentioned, where like you got to be ready 9 times, like Mo Salah being not ready 9 times out of 10 to just get out there and do it. Like I like the fact you mentioned like your sort of like Tony Robbins and his rituals. I'd be kind of interested, like, what was your sort of rituals before you sort of started? Was it a case of you listened to a piece of music? Was it a case of you, like, said a mantra beforehand? Was it a case of you did a little, like, maybe a hacker? Who knows? Before that as well. Do you, like, what are your rituals to prepare for a speech, say?
Well, what I usually do is I'm just gonna shut this off. There's like the sun was in my eye.
Blinded by
For me, it's really practice. I try to really learn and understand the material, because I think what makes a lot of people nervous is that they don't feel confident that they know what they're about to say, right? Or like, so for me, it's really all about practice and learning and understanding the material and having good comprehension of it. And it's important when you're giving a speech to have good comprehension and not to try to memorize it, because if you try to memorize something and then you blank on a word, you're kind of like on stage because you're trying to find the word. But if you have good comprehension of what you're about to say, I can say it differently, but I communicate the point. But because I know the direction where I'm going, I'm able to just keep going. So as I've been giving more and more speeches, I have a process where, like, I start by kind of like writing out what I want to say, but then I understand what I want to say, that when I'm practicing, I actually just have bullet points. So I just kind of like have, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 bullet points, depending on how long I'm giving a speech. And then I just know, like, okay, this is the bullet point, this is the story, this is the message I have to give, and because I've practiced and rehearsed, when I start speaking, it just comes to you. And it's sometimes like, I don't even know what's going on. It's like you're possessed, right? It's just like stuff is coming out, right? So that's one thing. But for me, to be honest, the thing that I do is I pray. Right before I get on stage is I put in my prayer, and there's a little bit of, I wouldn't say haka, but haka-esque action that I do.
Okay.
Because scientifically, what you actually want to do is you want to get in what they call, you want to get into peak state, right? So think of, like, let's say doing push-ups, or like doing something that kind of like gets your body into peak state, because it's all about energy management, right? The way you manage your energy. Because, for example, if you were to go on stage and you don't have energy, and you then just go and say, like, hey guys, how are you? I'm here to talk about, like, nobody, like, you've already lost the crowd, because you're not in peak state. You don't have the energy to kind of like capture people's attention. So it's kind of like, people already disconnect. But if you then come in and say, like, what's up, everybody? London, how you doing? You know what I'm saying? It's a different type of energy, because then people will be like, what? Who is this? Like, and people usually tend to gravitate towards confidence, because even if I'm not truly confident of what I'm saying, but if I don't show you that I'm not confident, but instead, if I show you that I'm confident, I know what I'm talking about, you become an authority, right? Because if you're giving a speech, you're kind of like a focal point, right? And people want to listen to someone who's confident, who knows what they're talking about. And, but if I come and say, like, well, I'm not really sure about this. Yeah. So why should I be listening to you if you're not sure? Why should I waste my time listening to you? So I think being able to quickly show everybody in a short amount of time, the first 5 seconds is super important, that you're confident, you have a good command of your stage, good stage presence, but more importantly, you have the energy. That's what brings it. And since we're talking about Tony Robbins, I don't know if you've seen him live or you've been at an event.
I haven't seen him live, but like, this is the thing. I've like, before, like, I watched the documentary on him on Netflix about, I think, a year and a half ago, 2019. And like before that, there was other things I've seen about him. And when you're talking about stuff coming up on YouTube when he's doing speeches, so I'm like, I would say I'm fairly versed on him, but I don't actually know him as a personality or a character. Like, what I mean?
So part of what he does, and a lot of really good speakers, is like when he comes on stage, he brings the energy. Like, it's a lot of music, and like he gets you like up and pumping, because what then happens is that the crowd also then gets into stage, into kind of like a peak, state. And it enables people to then kind of like, when they listen to you, they're like, oh wow, like, the right hormones, endorphins and whatever are firing in the head, which kind of like is good. Is it can I share something on my screen, or am I able to do that?
Just see. I'll see what I can do. If you throw it up, let's see if I can get this done without trying. Okay, right. I honestly, let's see.
What I could do is I can send you the link in the chat, and then you can maybe show it.
Yeah,
if that's easier.
Yeah.
Okay. So just play this clip real quick. Share your screen and play this clip real quick. And put it like full screen if you can.
Okay. Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So you just press play. This is my era. And in my era, everybody dances. I'm African, and we Africans love to dance. So when MCN called and were like, Kuda, come speak at the conference, I thought, of course, I'll get up on that stage because there's dancing and a microphone involved. And with this microphone, I can get to tell stories. You see, the best part about being African, aside from the dancing, is the storytelling. You can pause it. But what I wanted to show you real quick is how, like, you can come on stage, right? So you saw, like, this was like a conference, and all the other speakers were just coming in with kind of like, a suit and a tie and like, a speech, and like they go on a podium. And I'm like, no, like you need to do it differently. So I literally came with a DJ on stage. There was a DJ on stage with me. And, they play the music, I come, I'm dancing, and everybody's like, what's going on? And like, you see, like the energy is like, okay, yeah. a little bit of Oliver Twist going on. And now you have everybody engaged, right? So you can watch the full speech if you want, but you kind of like see like when you come in and you're just kind of like, you know what you're talking about and you have that energy, it changes everything. But more importantly, when you see the crowd also like cheering, for me, that also calms the nerve. So it's kind of like two-way. I'm giving and I'm also taking as well. So that's really my strategy. And whenever I go out and give speeches, I try to do these out of the box things, right? Because it's all about creating an experience. And what I usually tell myself is like, hey, the more people I see taking out their phone and wanting to capture that moment, that's when I know I've done a good job. Because if you see someone like, I need to share this, like this needs to be on my Instagram story, this needs to be on my Snapchat or whatever, you've got it. But if they're taking out their phones to text or do something else, you've lost the crowd.
No, I love that. I love that. And like, yes. Yeah, all I've got to say is you are a showman, sir. You are a showman. And yeah, all I would say, yeah, like when you mentioned DJ, I have looked through your socials before and I've seen you do your DJ bit yourself, where you've been spinning the decks yourself, getting the crowd going. I have to say, yes, you definitely are a showman, to say the least. So I have to ask now, your latest business venture, Nunbelievable. Cookies for the world. How would you describe it?
Yeah, I would describe it as, we're fighting hunger in a delicious way. Because for every cookie that we sell, we donate a meal to feed someone in need. And one thing about me is that I also got to experience hunger myself firsthand. In Zimbabwe in 1992, we had a major drought. The New York Times actually called that drought the worst drought to hit Southern Africa in the 20th century or something like that. And it was a tough time, not just for people in Zimbabwe, but for people in South Africa, Zambia, Mozambique, Namibia. The whole Southern Africa was hit. So I got to experience firsthand what it's like not to be able to have food or to go to sleep on an empty stomach. And with Nunbelievable, what happened was I was actually in a very high-paying corporate job. I was working for this big multi-billion-dollar company. And for someone who came, with $40 in his pocket to have been able to get to that level, and I was leading an e-commerce division that was close to about $100 million in revenue. So I had a big responsibility. A lot of people thought I was crazy when I decided to quit that job to go and start Nunbelievable, because, even my parents, they're like, Kuda, like, you're working for this big company, job security, you have a good job, you've just now bought a house and, all these things, so for them, they were like, no, stay there, just keep climbing the corporate ladder. Yeah. But for me, it was more about not just success, but it's also about gaining fulfillment. Because a couple of years before I made that decision, my sister passed away. One of my sisters passed away. And when I was at a funeral, I started asking myself questions, because she died fairly young. She was like 40, 41. And it was so sudden because it was just an attack by a dog. She was attacked by a dog when she was walking her little daughter, and she died. So when I was kind of like at the funeral, I'm saying to myself, was she happy? Was she fulfilled? Did she get to live her life purpose? And I was kind of like a stage in my life where I was just chasing corporate success, right? I was chasing to hit that target so that I could get that bonus. I was, working to get that promotion so that I could, get to that next level. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I think we should be motivated to provide for our families and the people that we care about. But that shouldn't be the only thing you care about. You should also be looking into things that give you fulfillment. And having started that social venture when I was in college, what gave me fulfillment was me knowing that the work that I'm doing is changing other people's lives. And when the idea for Nunbelievable came about, for me, it was a no-brainer, because not only was I going to fight hunger, right, something that I had a very deep personal connection with, but I had the ability to still become successful, right? We're building, a business here, and we've been able to give over, I think, 600,000 meals. We've fed over 600,000 people. And we're still quite young. We started, in late 2019, sorry, and we've only been in market for slightly over a year, right? And we launched about 6 weeks before the pandemic, right? So if you think about it, it's like we've been able to do quite a lot in terms of growing the business, but more importantly, in terms of the number of lives that we're affecting and impacting with our work. So for me, that was like, hey, I need to do something that gives me success and also it gives me fulfillment. And as I was going through that journey, it actually led me to this, which is my book, The Spear Method.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I was like, okay.
Yeah. And in the book, I actually talk about, that journey I went through with my sister's passing, but more importantly, what I then did in kind of like really understanding how can you become successful and also fulfilled. Because one of what I think life's ultimate failure is being successful, but you're not fulfilled, right? That is life's ultimate failure. So imagine if you're a miserable billionaire, right? You have all the money in the world, but you're not happy. That's the ultimate failure in my regard. So what you want to ensure is that as you're becoming that millionaire or that billionaire or whatever it is that you want to achieve in your journey, you're also happy and fulfilled. So I came up with the SPEAR method, which is 5 simple steps to balance success and fulfillment, where I really talk about the things that you could do in your life to make sure you're successful. So from a materialistic perspective, you have enough money to pay for your bills, you can look after your family, give your kids the best livelihood, but also you are fulfilled, you're happy, and you're not miserable or anything like that. So that was another good output for that. But with Nunbelievable, we're really happy with the work that we're doing. We want to grow the business, because as we grow the business, we get to feed more people. We have some really amazing partners like World Vision, Feeding America, and a whole host of other impact partners. And we can't wait to continue growing this business and taking it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, you know what? I've got to simply say this. I'm very impressed, because like 600,000 people, giving meals to 600,000 meals in the space of, let's just say, one of the most challenging times, globally, for any sort of business start, is extremely impressive. And those sort of the challenges which rise up have been truly unique to at least 4-5 generations, who knows. But yeah, and then having time to still to write a book, The Spear Method, as well, that is kind of a bonkers, because how do you manage your time to do all of this and get everything done? Is it a case of you just sending people out, or if I looked at your calendar right now, you've just got everything just laid out, regimented?
It's a little bit of both. I do have quite a little bit of a structure. I started doing a lot of personal development stuff straight out of college, right? I had an executive coach when I literally when I graduated, when I was 22. And this was an executive coach that was coaching CEOs and, executives and whatnot. And for me to be able to have that type of knowledge, right, of how to become successful, how to become more productive at a very young age, I think it helped. one thing I'll caveat is that when I graduated, I didn't have the typical job that most graduates have, right? I was really lucky in that regard. So when I graduated, my first job out of college was I went and I worked in that same multi-billion-dollar company I was referring to. But the job they gave me, they're like, Kuda, they literally created that position for me. And the position was to create new businesses. Okay. So literally I would be given ideas on a napkin, right? So like, let's say the CEO would come up with an idea. It's like, oh, what if we were to do this? Go give it to Kuda and he'll figure out how to turn it into a business. Because when I was in college, I started a business, right? So they were like, oh, we need people like you who kind of like are out of the box thinkers and can create something out of nothing. So that was kind of like my job. So when I got the job, I quickly realized that, hey, I need to grow, right? Because if I go into this with the mindset I just have from college, like I won't be successful. So the first thing I did is I invested in a personal development coach when I was like 22, 23, whatever. And I worked with him for like 2 years. And like I told you, like he was like, his other clients were CEOs, chairmen of like multi-billion-dollar companies and so forth and so forth. So I was able to really like come up with habits and routines that a lot of like highly productive, highly successful people do at a very young age. And that led me to actually do things that from a corporate perspective, people thought like were impossible. So for example, like one of the ideas that came up was like, hey, we need to launch a meal delivery business. And they gave it to me. And I remember the CFO at the time was like, there's no way this kid is going to do this. Like, we're wasting resources. We should deploy money somewhere else. This kid just graduated uni. Like, what are we thinking? But somehow my boss and, you know, the CEO, they just believed in me, or they were just like, well, let's see what this kid can do. Worst case, you know, we'll give him something else to do. And I launched it. And not only did I launch it, we scaled it, we grew it, and it went from 0 to over $20 million in revenue in less than 3 years. And like, that's when, like, you know, like even the CFO, the guy who was like, you know, my worst kind of like foe, he came around because we were delivering profit. We're delivering like $2 million to the bottom line, you know. So it's like, I had the seat at the table now. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing that qualifies you more in life than results. Your age doesn't qualify you, right? But results do. So if you can deliver a result, even if you're 15 years old, you're delivering a result, and you need a seat at the table. Yeah. So that's what I'll tell you in terms of like time management. It's, you know, I wouldn't say I'm perfect. I'm always learning, but I have some good routines that enable me to have a balanced life. So if you do look at my calendar, I tried to give a name to every single, you know, slot on my time. And if you look at my tracker for my sleep, I sleep, you know, 7, 8, sometimes 9 hours a day. But I try to make sure that I get whatever I need to get done.
Yeah. Wow. Like, yeah, I like the whole thing. Yeah, it comes down to results. Another like person who's highly successful as well, Oprah Winfrey, like goes, yeah, it's down to excellence as well. If you can bring results and excellence together all at once, yeah, I think it opens the door a lot more. Whereas like, yeah, your CFO, before you did that with that business coming through, he would be like, yeah, you sit outside, and if you do sit inside, be quiet, don't say a word. It's like, no, come, we need you to listen to this, that, the other. Wow. Like, I can understand why many your parents are going, why are you leaving here? Why are you doing this? But I can understand why you did leave, because if you're coming up with all of these business ideas for everyone else, which I think it taps into your sort of core quite naturally, there must be a kind of part of you which is like, yeah, if I did this myself, and if I could get this to get here and do this.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that it's just being bold and fearless. So we were like talking about Liverpool.
Yes.
I actually work with Liverpool. Liverpool, I have a license with them. Like we sell officially licensed merchandise for Liverpool. I also have a license with Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, and all these, top European clubs. And the way it happened is just being bold and fearless. One of my friends, she came to me, she had a patent, but she wasn't really quite sure of what to do. And she was like, hey, Kuda, what kind of like stuck? And I immediately saw it. I'm like, listen, let's approach the Premiership teams and let's try to go get licenses for this, and we'll get the deals done. And she was like, how are we going to do that? I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. And literally, we just did it, and we were just bold and fearless. We'd walk into a room, with PSG and pitch, and we're like young, and they'll be like, you kids, like no, but we have a product, we have a patent, and we can do business, and we'll deliver results for you guys. And we got the deals done. And like I said, it's just being fearless and knowing that impossible is nothing, right? Nelson Mandela said it right, to say like, hey, people sometimes think it's impossible until it's done. So as a human being, I think you need to know that you have unlimited potential, right? How do people get wealthy? They create wealth. So that's why it's called wealth creation. And, don't think about wealth just with regards to financial wealth. Health is wealth, right? So you run and you work out, but you're creating it, right? If you don't do anything, then it becomes impossible. But by you just taking action and making progress on it, it then becomes possible for you to have wealth in your health, right? And it could be in your relationships or anything else. So it just comes out to anything. And I'm a firm believer that if you can just perceive it, if you have an idea for anything, just the mere fact that you have that idea, it actually means that it can happen. So for instance, just think about what mankind has been able to do. We had the idea of going to the moon. The moment when that idea was seeded in us was the day it became possible. It probably didn't manifest in the physical until years and years later, but that moment in time when you literally said like, you know what, we want to go to the moon, that's the day it became possible. Similar to like me when I was like, you know what, I want to come to America, that's the day it became possible. But it only became possible through action. So even the day we were like, you know what, we're going to sign contracts with the Premiership teams and we're going to be launching officially licensed merchandise with them, it became possible. But if you don't do the action, right, it's still possible for it to happen, but it won't happen because you need to tie in the action with the vision to get the result.
Yeah, no, like this is the thing. Nothing happens without some type of action for yourself. Like basically, like we are the sum of what we consistently do. If we do something consistently positive, positive things will happen. If we do something consistently negative, negative things will happen. Like people sort of underestimate the sort of power of consistency and the power of actions. Look, from our conversation today, look, you are being a person who has looked and strived in sort of mostly every measure to sort of push yourself a little bit further on, And from those actions, you have achieved like what some people might go, that would be very hard or highly unlikely for you to achieve many of these goals. And like, it's just like, it just shows that the limitations we set are the limitations we set for ourselves. And if we set higher goals, if we set higher limitations, we can like step up to those and really achieve something special. It's just a case of we have to have that faith within ourselves and basically and put that hard work in to make it happen. That's the way I see it. And like, yeah, you are an example of that. And I would simply say, yeah, you need to get out. I think you need to be out there a little bit more, just sort of being able to be visible, because I think there's a lot of people what could sort of benefit and gain from like the sort of attitude and energy you put out there in the world. I don't know what that might manifest that self in. It might be like doing more speaking. It might be a case of maybe doing a podcast or like doing something on YouTube. I don't know. But I think in this day and age, this 21st century, which is cluttered and clamored with so much negativity, so much sort of like falsehoods, I think you with a positive message, your message, like, look, the spare method, like basically your journey coming over to America. I think it's very important that people actually get to see you out there. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your skirt or anything like that. Not at all. It's just what I truly believe. And I think it's what this world needs a lot more from people, because look, people go, oh, but there's a million and one like guys like Kuda. And I'll go, no, there isn't. There are a few, but if we want more people which have got this attitude, which want to push things, which want to get better, we need to hear more from them. It's just what I say. I don't know if you like agree with me or you disagree with me. It's up to you, you know?
No, I think it's true. I'm a firm believer that it's kind of like an obligation for anyone to share their gift with the world, because God gave us these gifts not for us, but for us to share them. So you look into like the people who are celebrated, right? You know, they're celebrated because they've shared their gifts with the world. LeBron James, he's celebrated because he's shared his gift of basketball with everyone, right? We get to see those moments and see him do amazing things. You know, great speakers, you know, and that stuff. So I do agree with you. And I think technology has made it much easier for you to share your gift with people in a very easy way. There's a danger that sometimes, you know, when you do become that influencer, you know, you might forget the reason why you started. So I do agree with you about spreading the word, but I'm also very cautious in saying, like, always remain humble and remember, you know, you're sharing your gift with the world, and you shouldn't then get some sort of sense of entitlement, like, oh, I've done this, or whatever. But you know, for me, taking these podcasts and, you know, connecting with people like you, it's part of my way of starting to share whatever I can share with the world, because as other people listen to the story, my deepest desire is, you know, at least one person is inspired to go become the best version of themselves. Because if, you know, a kid like me, like, there's nothing really special about me. I grew up in Zimbabwe, you know, didn't have much in terms of resources, came to America with $40 in my pocket. But I just was on this relentless pursuit of my potential, which I know I haven't fully maximized my potential yet. I'm still pursuing it every single day. I'm learning, I'm growing. But I've seen what's possible when you stay focused, when you continue to push, and I hope others out there will be able to see it. I've been in some of the toughest spots. You know, try to come to Miami, Florida with $40 in your pocket and see what it feels like, right? But you know, you can get out of that with the right mindset, with the right attitude. Focus on the things that you can control, like your attitude, how you show up every single day, and more importantly, the action you take now. And when I say now, I mean NOW, no opportunity wasted. Don't waste an opportunity, right, to learn, to grow, and give.
Right. No, I'm loving that a lot. Now, okay, I have to ask, like, what are your sort of plans over in the next 3 to 5 years? Because after all, this is your era. You've got it written on your shirt as well.
Yeah.
Is that right? So what do you think, like, will be some of your goals over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, well, it's something that I think about quite a lot. The first thing is I want to feed 10 million people with Nunbelievable within the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
We're like around 600,000 now, and I think it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my target. I also want to educate 1,000 students in Zimbabwe and other countries across Africa. That's my other goal. So with This Is My Era, it's a personal development brand. We sell 90-day planners. We're starting to get into online courses and other things. And we donate a portion of our profits to World Vision. And we're educating students through them and other partners as well. So that's my other goal. On a personal side, I would love to be a father within the next 3 years. So my wife and I, we want to start on that journey to start a family. And I hope to see Chelsea win another Champions League. So that's another goal that I have. So
Wow.
would love to see it happen, and hopefully I can be in the stadium. I think we're in the semifinal. I know we're facing Real Madrid. It's going to be tough, but anything is possible, right? We faced a Spanish team the last time we won the Champions League in the semifinal. So that could be an interesting story if we're able to beat Real Madrid, similar to like how we beat Barcelona in 2012. But it's a goal that's kind of like out of my control. I can't really do much about that one, except just be the couch manager that I am, and always be telling the coach that he needs to do this, he needs to take this player out, he needs to put this player in, that player is out of position. That's kind of like all I do with that specific goal, but it's a goal nonetheless. But yeah, those are kind of like the key things that I'm thinking about. How can I feed more people? How can I educate more people? And how can I be the best husband my wife could get?
Loving it. Absolutely loving it. Look, with regards to with regards to the whole Chelsea side, armchair management, I think it's a case of whoever wins out of you and Real Madrid, it's going to be kind of the old school versus the new school, because like Paris Saint-Germain, Man City, who goes through and who wins it through. With regards to educating 1,000 kids, my God, yeah. That is a very noble cause indeed, and have 10 million meals by in 3 years. Hey, yeah. I put it this way, here in the UK, things are really sort of feel like they sort of kickstarting properly, not sort of like splutter start, but kickstarting again. I think in the US, I think things are kickstarting over there as well. Sort of we're getting back full drive forward. Fingers crossed, nothing sort of comes out of the curveball, but it's going in the right direction. I think, that's going to be, I look forward to it. And very possible. You are a very motivating chap, sir. Very motivating chap.
You are as well, man. Thank you so much for bringing me on the podcast. Is there any other thing you want to chat about before I head out?
I was going to basically reveal that I'm a cosmic being with extreme powers, and I can grant you one wish. But before you say anything about the wish, you cannot wish for world peace. You can't wish for COVID to be gone, because look, I've had to do deals with Dolly Parton and when the world's at threat again, I'm have to do deals with Beyonce. That is just too much cosmic paperwork for one being to do. And you cannot write down a list of things and go, I wish for everything on this list to come true. And before you even start, because I've had a number of impish people, you can't wish for multiple wishes or an infinite amount of wishes either. What would it be, your one wish?
For God's will to be done.
God's will to be done. Ooh. Simple, elegant, straight to the point. Love it. Kuda, can you tell the lovely people how they can find you out there in the big wide world?
You can find me right here on your podcast, day in, day out. That's one place. You can find me on my personal website, spearmethod.com. So you get to read about my book and learn about me and the other things that I do. And also you can find me on Instagram, Kuda Biza, Kudabiza. Those are the places I would recommend to connect with me directly.
Excellent. I will put all of those notes in the description down below. So yes, please go out, get in contact with this highly motivational man. And yes, let's see what the future holds. Kuda, I've got to say thank you for coming on today. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, man. I enjoyed it. Have a good day, and good luck with Liverpool. Everything going on. Top 4, interesting race. You could still make it, and let's see what happens over the next few weeks.
Yes, indeed. Yes, we can still make it. But what I simply say to you now is, yes, my friends, my life warriors, please stay well, stay safe, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic, be all the positive bees you can be in this world and then some. Thank you, my friends. Have a great day. And yes, be awesome. Peace. And we are